Sandeep, Jaitly, what is the Austrian school?
The Austrian school is the school of Karl Menger. Now, Ludwig von Mises, we've all heard of, he was a second-generation student of Karl Menger. But Karl Menger was the founder of the Austrian school, and he founded it on only one axiom. And that axiom is that value does not exist outside of mankind's consciousness. So basically, all other forms of economics, classical, neoclassical economics, ascribe value to something else other than the human mind. So this concept gave birth to marginal utility, which I'm sure many people are familiar with. It's the border use of something that determines its value, and the economics of border use is the Austrian school.
Okay, now, so consciousness is where the axiom upon which the economics of Menger and the Austrian school rotate. Now, this implies a high degree of subjectivity, and in the Austrian school, because they take into the psychological and mass psychology, it's almost Freudian. It would be Freud meets, that's the point, isn't it? Because these other schools of economics, they tend to approach economics empirically, but what we've discovered is that it's completely irrational, especially with the behavioral. Doesn't the behavioral economics model that's come out in the last couple of years and won a couple of Nobel Prizes, doesn't that completely legitimize and emphasize the school of Austrian that you're talking about?
It does, but Max, you have to, I'm a mathematician, and it's taken me quite a while to realize that most of the equations, all of the equations in neoclassical economics are rubbish. They're vacuous. The differential equations describe nothing. Economics is not about mathematics. It's about the human being. Maths is just a language. If you have no philosophy, then it's useless, and they have no philosophy.
Right, and in the 2008 crash, these banks said that, well, our quantitative analysis was wrong, and the risks that we thought we had hedged, it didn't work out. And what you're saying, what the Austrian school would say, is that that was baked into the cake from the beginning, because it's impossible to come up with a mathematical formula to quantify and predict the machinations of the collective unconscious, effectively.
Absolutely, Max. And it's obvious to me, but it's obviously not obvious to them. I don't know why.
Right, okay. Well, that's all the time for we have, actually. And I want to have you back on again soon to get into this a little bit more, because I think that with Ron Paul now slated to be the Inquisitor, grilling Ben Bernanke on his irresponsible flagrancy by destroying the U.S. and global economy, we're going to need your insights going forward. So anyway, thanks for being on the show, Sandeep Jaitly.
Thanks, Mike.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Monday, June 27th, 2011, and I'm Darko. This is my website, ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. This is a poll up here. You have 4 days left to vote. Do you believe the real purpose of tapping the country's oil reserves was to bolster support for Barry Soetoro? You can go down all the way to the bottom, and you can check me out on Facebook. I usually go through this in the beginning, so bear with me if you're a subscriber on that. Right down here, just click that button. A lot of information on this website that you can check out. Some great advertising that I have basically no control over right here. Israel's on the front lines of the war on terror. She must be able to defend her borders. Sign a statement of support for Israel. And of course that's done to, of course, tick me off. Like I said, I don't promote any of the advertisements, and nor do I have any control over it. So DDarko 2012 is my YouTube channel, so go and check that out. Plenty of playlist. And I start out with the economy, usually with stocks and that. So stocks, euro rise on Greek vote hopes. Says here, U.S. stocks snapped a 3-day losing streak on the euro rally against the dollar on Monday on an increasing confidence the Greek parliament will pass an unpopular austerity plan, and as French banks outline an agreement to roll over Greek debt. Then China's Yuan weakens against the U.S. dollar on Monday. Some more Chinese news. Chinese stocks open higher Monday, and the experts say Yuan will float freely in 3 years. And we have this, Russia, and this is some news that I covered almost 6 months ago now, but Russia, China signed deal to switch to trade in rubles and yuan. It says here Russia and China will switch to trade in rubles and yuan to boost bilateral trade and economic cooperation following an agreement signed between the central banks of both countries, said Russian Central Bank Deputy Chairman said on Thursday. So that's, like I said, older news, but it's just trickling down now. Next up, we have commodities. It took a big hit recently since my last set of videos. And moving down here, we have Brent crude at $106, heating oil at up $2, gas oil futures up $3.25, and then moving down here, natural gas up a little bit, and then moving down to agriculture, we have $5. Corn is down $5, and we have cocoa up $30 and $36. That's a pretty steep incline there. Coffee also up almost 50 cents. Wheat down $10 and $20, and then moving down all the way here to metals. Copper's at $408, down $2.75. Gold now below $1,500 at $1,496.70, down $4.20. Silver at $33, still above 30, so that's good for silver owners, but it's down $1.13. Okay. Longest losing streak since 2008 ending for commodities as futures surge. Commodities will rebound from the worst losing streak since the end of 2008 because of shortages of everything from copper to palladium to corn will boost prices even if economic growth stalls, should history be a guide. Next up, we have Brent higher on euro rise, optimism on Greece. Then we have Brent crude prices rose on Monday, bouncing off lows as the euro rallied against the dollar on firmer hopes Greece will pass the austerity program, and it's all hinging on the Greeks basically doing what most pundits and most governments and central banks are advising them to do, which is to take the austerity plans and prevent the U.S. and all these other countries from going down with them. So I'm not promoting it, or I'm not going to deny it right now. I'm just going to keep moving on for time's sake. OPEC weekly oil price keeps falling. The weekly average price of OPEC kept falling last week to $106 a barrel, said the Vienna-based cartel on Monday. And the UAE has their own mercenaries hit squad now. It says here gold falls as safe haven bids ease, equities up. And then moving down here, we have gold fell for a third session on Monday, weighed down by economic optimism as investors bet debt-laden Greece would take action. Well, that's because the globalists want that to occur. So yes, I am going to put my 2 cents in there. They want this to occur. Just like in the U.S., they should have just let it be, and then they should have basically ended the Federal Reserve System as we know it. Maybe I'm not really big into regulations and laws, but the Glass-Steagall Act was removed, and interest rates were super low. So I mean, it was a disaster in the making, and a lot of money got siphoned off, and to fewer and fewer hands. And you can see it. You can see it in the economy. A lot of people are hurting right now, especially the middle class. But that is that those people are the target, the middle class. Consumer spending in May weakest in a year. For the first time in a year, Americans have stopped spending more. Consumer spending failed to budge from April to May, evidence that high gas prices and unemployment are squeezing household budgets. There you go. When adjusted for inflation, spending actually dropped 0.1% in the last month, Commerce Department reported on Monday. Then we have Afghanistan. And it says here, Afghan Central Bank chief flees to the United States. And Afghan Central Bank governor has left for the U.S. and isn't expected to return because of his fears for his safety after investigating fraud allegations at the country's largest lender, according to Western officials. And just goes to show you who he's really working for, right? Fed seen buying $25 billion a month in Treasuries after QE2 comes to an end. The Federal Reserve will remain the biggest buyer of Treasuries even after the second round of quantitative easing ends this week, as the central bank uses its $2.86 trillion balance sheet to keep interest rates artificially low. Okay. So is there a lot of borrowing going on? No, but that's just to, like we said before, it's just to encourage borrowing. But, before it was just to anybody, and now it's getting more selective. It says here, interest rates must rise worldwide, says Bank of International Settlements. They warn that the low interest rates across the globe are a threat to world financial stability. And the Bank of International Settlements was one of those banks that was involved, proxy bank, whatever you want to call it, a neutral bank that where the money, the funds went from the West back in the 40s and the 30s to the East towards the German war machine. That's where the money came from. It went through the Bank of International Settlements. So people say, oh, we're fighting National Socialism, while at the same time they were funding it, and then they actually became National Socialists, which is a big joke, right? Because that's what really happened. Interest rates heading for 10%, according to Bank of International Settlements Shrapnel report. It says here experts see rates hitting 9.4% by 2013. Strong prices, labor market fueling inflation, homeowners at risk from raft of rises. Then U.S. economy growth, or U.S. economic growth, revised up to 1.9% in the first quarter. We have U.S. economic growth in the first quarter was revised up slightly to an annual rate of 1.9%, and the third and final estimate released by the Commerce Department on Friday. Then we have forecasts for growth dropped some sharply. A drumbeat of disappointing data about consumer behavior, factory sales, and weak hiring in recent weeks has prompted economists to ratchet down their 2011 economic forecast to as little as half of what they expected at the beginning of the year. And we have record high 36% of Americans lack confidence in banks. I wonder why, because they're getting ass raped by them. Excuse me if you're a young person. They're just getting really taken advantage of, and it's hard, you know what I mean? Because if you did like the banks at this point in time in our history, you'd be a sadomasochist. If you don't understand that, you need to just go and look it up and see what it really means. It means that you love the people that are torturing you and abusing you and are taking advantage of you. You start to enjoy it and want it. And unfortunately, you'll see a lot of people that are like that. Very intelligent people all around you. China's local level government, and a good example of this, guys, is the austerity measures in that in Greece, and say, well, they don't have the money, like my uncle said, right? They don't have the money. You know, what are you gonna do? You know, so and my answer is, well, you can end all the wars. You can end wars, and wars, and wars. And you can end fraud, and you can also end the government as well. That'll actually solve most of your problems right there, including the wars and all the fraud and the monopoly of currency and that. So. But most people don't want to hear the real solutions. They just want to hear the same rhetoric that they've heard before and been taught in the re-education camps. China's local level government debts exceed 10 trillion yuan. And then we have the Chinese central government post fiscal deficit of 800 billion yuan in 2010. Then we have Chinese industrial businesses profits up 27%. Then, seminar in Beijing marks 40th anniversary of Kissinger's first China visit. And so why would they be celebrating that? Well, because, you know, he's one of the guys that, you know, manages the powers that be's plans. So he went over there and said, okay, China, we're going to start building you up. Not too high, but we're going to build you up. And they did. And now he's going back there and they're celebrating it. It's all manufactured, all artificial. China's great swindle, how public officials stole 120 billion and fled the country. And we have shilling, why China's heading for a hard landing. And I'm going to keep moving here. And they give you a bunch of empirical reasons for why they're going to go down, but the real reason is, like I said, they were brought up and they're going to be brought down a little bit. And next up, we have Spanish banks hiding over 70 billion in bad real estate. El Confidential reports Eurozone on verge of economic collapse, says Mr. Soros, who also is going to promote this austerity plan that they helped formulate as far as and including the actual crisis itself. Greek debt crisis prompts fear of EU disintegration, which would be great, right? Then China. We have China. Waiting for my slow connection here. China will spend billions to prop up the stricken euro. Then we have Greek rebel MPs may curb austerity reform, says Deputy Minister. Soros says a euro exit mechanism is probably inevitable amid the crisis. Then Greece fire. Basically, it's saying here U.S. taxpayers may pay for U.S. bank loss. Then Romney. Waiting here. Okay, Romney asked London hedge fund bankers for financial support. Australian support for climate action slides in recent weeks. Then we have this, details of carbon pricing to be released in weeks, says Australian Prime Minister. So they're going to start pricing carbon. And a NASA scientist, a part of the Bush administration, was basically found to be getting paid to promote global warming. And then we have this, Europe makes driving unpleasant to discourage car use, also to get rid of personal property. There has to be no property in this brave new world. Private prisons love. The Canadian Postal Service is forced to go back to work, and the U.S. is about to go bankrupt here in October. Please join me in part 2 of the GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.